Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to announce a speaker who is not only a central member of the Finnish government today, but also has been a fundamental part of the European Commission, a primus motor for the European integration, Minister Olli Rehn. For 10 years, 2004-2014, Mr. Rehn served as member of the European Commission. He served as the European Commissioner for Economic and Monetary Affairs and the Euro from 2009 to 2014. Prior to that, he was the Commissioner for Enlargement. Until 2014, he was the Vice President of the Commission. A fact less known is that Minister Rehn also has substantial hands-on experience in trade via the Chamber of Commerce. In 1975-82, he worked as a spare parts salesman at Mikkelin Autofabriken. And since football is the national sport in Germany, I need to mention that he also played football in football club Mikkelin Pallolia. Minister Rehn, welcome.
Excellenzen, meine Damen und Herren, Herr Professor Weber, liebe Botschafterin. Ist mir eine Freude, vor diesem erlesenen Publikum hier an der Jahrestagung der deutsch-finnischen Handelskammer zu sprechen. Diese Zusammenkunft unterstreicht beides, sowohl die Wichtigkeit der deutsch-finnischen Beziehungen in Wirtschaft und Politik, als auch die Bedeutung der Kammer bei der Pflege dieser Beziehungen. Weil ich kann Deutsch besser verstehen als sprechen, I will now switch to English. And I'd like to first of all thank you, Professor Weber, for a very interesting presentation and very much linked to the issues we had this morning in the Energy Academy of Finland. We are discussing very much the same kind of issues as regards renewable energy and what is the role of photovoltaic, solar energy, wind power, and in our case bioenergy, because more than 80% of renewable energy is produced from wood or forest-based biomass in this country. And we still have plenty of room to use that because we only utilize maximum 70% of annual growth and we practice very sustainable forest management in Finland, which by the way originates from Germany in the 19th century, mid-19th century. So let me welcome especially all the German participants to Helsinki and Finland. I do it with particular pleasure here at the restaurant Simpuli. Why so? Because this is the place we got married with my wife, at our wedding ceremony here only some decades ago. And in fact, I recall that this was the dance floor in the evening, and there was a little bit of demonstration from the audience, from the guests, because our song was first dance was not like customary. It was not a waltz or tango as in Finland it should be. Normally it's a waltz, but it was a song by Van Morrison, because we had a jazz band playing here on stage. But thanks to some peacemaking skills, we survived, and the rest of the evening band agreed to play some waltz and some tango. Anyway, dear friends, before talking about Finnish government's policies and efforts of boosting growth and job creation, I would like to say some words about the current economic situation in Europe and in Finland. Here you have the economic history of the Eurozone in a nutshell in one slide over the past 10 years. And the main message here is that while we had difficulties in the last years of last decade and the beginning of the euro crisis, as you can see, economic growth slowed down, and we had a very difficult period in between 2008 and 2010. Gross domestic product fell by 4 to 5% in Europe. We recovered from that, and following the decisions taken during the euro crisis, stabilization of public finances, decisions to create the European Stability Mechanism, contain financial turbulence, and the European Central Bank's active, accommodative monetary policy and unconventional measures. From 2012, especially 2013 onwards, economic recovery has picked up speed in Europe. The year 2015 was in fact the first year since the financial crisis that every single member state of the Eurozone was reporting an economy in recession. So there was positive growth in all member states of the Euro. This is welcome after so many years of difficulties. Despite the positive fundamentals and signs of recovery, we are still operating under considerable uncertainties in the world economy. That is, financial markets remain turbulent. Growth in China and other emerging economies have been showing signs of slowdown. In Russia, economic growth has been negative, and economic development remains weak and unstable, not only because of sanctions, but rather because of lack of any serious modernization of the economy. And also within the European Union, we are facing a wide range of challenges from the refugee crisis, both in Germany and in Finland. We have felt very deeply and seriously, to climate change, terrorist attacks, as well as the upcoming British referendum on whether to remain or leave the European Union. Overcoming these challenges calls for a strong political will by member states to work together for common solutions. And I can tell our German friends that you can rest assured that Finland is among those member states that are fully committed to European integration, and we want to work in order to drive the dynamics of economic and political integration in Europe. What is remarkable in Europe during this last couple of years is in fact that you can look at the glass whether it is half full or half empty. Those who say it's half empty tend to argue that growth has been fragile and modest. On the other hand, you can see the glass also half full, because even despite all these geopolitical tensions we have faced, despite the refugee crisis and other enormous political problems, European economy has in fact been resilient, and we have not returned to a recession. It seems that we will continue on this path and maintain a reasonable rate of economic growth. The financial crisis hit Finland particularly hard, and in 2009 our GDP fell over 8%. It's almost double compared to Europe in general. And we've had an economic recession since 2011 up until last year, and we are now are experiencing a turnaround by the policy measures, which I will explain in a second. Why were we hit so hard? We had several simultaneous structural factors. We had the downfall of ICT sector and longer decline of forest industries, which by the way both are now turning around, but in different guise than before. In the ICT sector, for instance, Nokia is reborn in a different form as a mainly network producer rather than a mobile phone producer. And in forest industries, pulp industries are in fact as bioproduction factories doing rather well, and they have a brighter future. But we also had low demand for investment goods in the world economy. It's affected Finland's economy. There was a significant fall in Russian trade, and we had domestic challenges of production costs that rose too rapidly in the past 5 to 10 years. Despite these troubles, the Finnish economy is now showing modest signs of recovery. Finland was in fact the last Euro country that returned back to growth. Last year growth was positive, although still rather modest, 0.5%. So therefore our key challenge today is to restore our economic competitiveness and growth and simultaneously balance public finances. Here the government has a three-pronged economic policy strategy, and the first one of these is improving, restoring our cost competitiveness. Namely, as I said, Finland's economic performance has suffered from too high unit labor costs, especially vis-à-vis our main competitors like Germany, like Sweden. And we have in the recent weeks achieved an agreement between the trade unions and the employers federation, supported by the government, where what we call the competitiveness pact or social contract. This means basically that we have zero wage increases this year and next year, 2017, and at the same time we are moving towards a method of company or firm level local agreements for an evolutionary process. In addition, there is a rather rapid and permanent 4% reduction of labor costs by increasing effective working time and by shifting social security contributions from employers to employees. So it's a combination of minus 4% rapidly, zero wage increases for 2 years, and increased emphasis on local agreements in companies and workplaces. And the assumption of the economists is that we should reach, in terms of unit labor costs, we should reach Sweden by 2018 and Germany by 2020, assuming that wage increases can be extrapolated as they have been in the past years in the two countries. So we count on certain wage increases in Germany that we can catch up because that would be good rebalancing of European, overall European economy. Second, we have to consolidate our public finances, but while we start this rebalancing immediately, we don't do it in an abrupt, sudden manner, but rather until 2021, meaning that the 10 billion sustainability gap will be closed by fiscal structural reforms and expenditure cuts, no tax increases. And third, while we are doing expenditure cuts, the government has decided on a number of actions to help boost investment in growth sectors such as the bioeconomy, clean tech and other clean solutions, healthcare and digitalization. For instance, health-related high technology is a growth industry in Finland and today representing about half of the high-tech industries in the country, with the combination of high-quality medical research, rather developed welfare and health services, and strong competence in digitalization and information and communication technology. What is our goal with these methods? Our objective is to help create 110,000 new jobs and reach an employment rate of 72% by 2019. Ultimately, this can only be achieved through encouraging entrepreneurship and strengthening incentives for work. That's why we have studied the German economic reforms very closely, also the Swedish economic reforms, and we recently launched an entrepreneurship package to improve our business environment and remove barriers to entrepreneurship. The government has already taken important steps in this direction, and we have, for instance, taken concrete actions to enhance internationalization services through Team Finland, reinforce and develop various tools of access to finance, especially for SMEs and Mittelstand, and opening the market to competition and getting rid of excessive regulation. For instance, while we discussed the opening of or the liberalization of shop opening hours in Finland for 20 or 30 years, we just decided to do that, and in the end of last year, the government presented the parliament agreed, supported that, and this major act of liberalization of the services sector entered into force as of 1st of January this year, which means that the businesses can very freely now decide on the shop opening hours in Finland. This reform has been quite well received by customers, by the shopkeepers, and also by employees, I dare to say. Quite recently, in April, we just decided on some additional measures, and this included reducing the threshold for hiring the first employee, introducing concepts such as innovation vouchers and innovation bank, as well as reforming the unemployment benefit system to encourage people to create their own jobs. The goal is to build up our current stock of businesses and companies and to encourage enterprises to grow further and internationalize further. These additional measures were designed especially for smallest businesses in mind, and we find this extremely important as almost 99% of all businesses in Finland fall into this category, i.e. below 10 employees. So, ladies and gentlemen, competing in global markets in today's world is by no means a walk in the park. You know it well. You know it well. Strengthening ties with our traditionally strong trading partners is at least as important as it is to seek new trading partners in distant growth markets, which we are at the same time very much engaged in. The solid political and economic relationship between Finland and Germany is of great value for both our countries. Since the beginning of the European recovery in 2013, the trade between Finland and Germany has grown steadily in both exports and imports. You can see from this slide there. In fact, Germany has now become the most important trading partner for Finland. This is in fact due to a long history of very close economic ties and active exchange of goods between our two countries. However, trade is only part of the story. Our economic cooperation goes much deeper. Enterprises both in Finland and Germany can identify strategic partners, make long-term investments and cooperate in technology development with companies across the Baltic Sea. And by the way, I speak here of my own experience, as was referred in the beginning. My school years, I worked as a spare parts salesman, and we had a leadership of Robert Bosch in Eastern Finland. So I can say that I was part of an extension of the German Wirtschaft under in Eastern Finland, very much part of the supply chain of Robert Bosch. And if your car breaks down in Eastern Finland, I happen to be there on summer holiday, you can call me. I can still collect by heart some 10-digit spare parts numbers. But only on the condition that you have cars from the 1970s and 80s. My memory extends up to the 1980s in this area. Furthermore, soon to be opened Baltic Sea optical cable will be digitally connecting Germany and Finland, and it provides whole new venues for growth. Helsinki AG Online is the first German company taking advantage of the new connection, along with our competitive electricity prices, and the company is establishing a data center in Tuusula near Helsinki, near the airport. I very much believe that this marks a beginning of diversification of our trade beyond machinery and paper products, which form the cornerstone of our economic and trading relations. We warmly welcome also other German companies to study the opportunities that investing in Finland could provide. Despite our challenges, the fundamental factors of Finnish competitiveness remain, and even our cost competitiveness is now improving, as I explained. Our structural strengths, such as our high-quality educational system and internationally competitive investments in research and development, make Finland a very attractive partner for foreign companies. Not to mention the vibrant startup scene that is already well known across the world, not least thanks to the Schloss conference, which has become the major European conference for startups and growth companies here in Helsinki. These elements together offer plenty of new opportunities for further intensifying German-Finnish trade relations and economic cooperation. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, with these words, I wish you a pleasant annual meeting seminar, and I wish you many fruitful and productive discussions. Thank you very much for your attention. Vielen Dank.